Hey guys, I hope you're well. If you don't know who I am, my name's Thomas Blakemore. I teach, travel and sometimes triumph. This is going to be a teach video. I'm a teacher who's based here in Dubai. I'm now going to be going into my 6th week of online learning. That means I still have another 9-10 weeks of online learning left. So that's another 2.5 months of online learning. Now, at the start of the whole online learning period, I made a range of different videos to support teachers with their online learning. Not just that, but parents and children too. So to start online learning, I gave out a range of different tips, and although those tips were very good and I still agree with those tips, having been through the experience of online learning for the last 5 weeks or so, there are a range of tips that if I could go back to the start, I would give myself and say, look, you need to do X, Y, Z. So in this video, I want to give you guys a range of tips that I wish I knew to start my online learning period. Tip number 1 is that it's essential to make some activities non-screen. Now, I did make a video for a range of different activities that you can do without a screen, but those were specifically related to things to sort of keep you busy. Some of those tips could be adapted for learning situations, such as a bit of an obstacle course for PE. You could have a target game to work out fractions for maths. There's lots of different ways of integrating non-screen activities, but it's also really important to make sure that the activities that children complete, not all of them, but some of them should be off screen, because otherwise children are spending a long time, whether that's on an iPad, whatever device it is, on a screen. Some of the ways that you can do that is just by giving the children the opportunity to have a paper version that's available, for example. So rather than spend all their time working things out through a screen, they could have some form of paper where they can come and do their calculations on paper before submitting that paper version of whatever they've created on something like Padlet, a platform where all children can share work and collaborate. At the same time, children could learn to make videos and have something set up. So rather than actually type things up on a computer, they can verbally explain things, and it's just really important to make sure that some activities are not screen related so that children aren't straining their eyes, because otherwise it gets too intense. Tip number 2 is accept that the lessons that you're going to teach, although fantastic, aren't going to be the same as the lessons that you teach in a school environment. For example, a live lesson is okay over Zoom, but it's not going to be half as good as the lesson that you're going to teach in school. One of the best things that I'm doing at the moment is creating videos that the children see for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the lesson, so that they can just see that video, understand what they need to do, and then go and complete whatever activity it is. Non-screen activity. So then the children are able to have that available and complete that within whatever period of time. And then that brings us on to the next part of making sure breaks are regular. Tip number 3 is to increase the frequency of breaks. Being at home means that you are more flexible, and teachers and parents need to accept that flexibility is key with online learning. Staring at a screen for whatever long period of time is going to have a strain on the eyes. So making sure that you've got those regular periods to come away from the screen is really quite critical, because otherwise it's going to get quite intense and you're going to struggle to concentrate. I'm taking that from my own personal experience and also what parents have said about their children. You will know if you're a parent when your child has had enough, but also as a teacher, if your eyes are straining, you'll know that if you've got headache, things like that, you're going to need to come away, have a drink. The time that you have that break might not be the hour that you'd have for a lunchtime in school, but it might just be that you chunk that down so you've got regular 10-minute breaks rather than sitting on a screen for the whole 3 hours and then having an hour off. So just increase the frequency. That's something personal, you might not agree, but I think that's really key, especially for children, to be a little bit more flexible, especially with their learning online. Tip number 4 is that well-being is absolutely key. Make sure that you really think about the well-being of your children within this online learning period, because whilst children are unable to see their peers and their teacher, it can be quite challenging, especially for children, but also parents. So make sure that you've set those times up to be able to talk to your class. Set those regular activities like the non-screen activities that I talked about, just fun things, sort of sharing a bit about yourself and making sure that your class are okay. Now, this is where live sessions really do come in key, because you're able to see them in person. Now, if you do set up live lessons for well-being and that sort of pastoral side of things, give children the chance to just talk to the children at the same time. One of the mistakes I made to start off with is making sure that there's a really structured activity and making sure that they're able to do something during every minute. But actually, no. Release the reins a little bit and just give the children that chance to be children and to talk to one another, because at the moment they might not be getting that opportunity, especially if they don't have siblings at home. So just take the time to do that, and at the same time still have those brief talks and make sure that you're available from parents if they are having those difficulties, so that you can set those meetings up for those children who might be struggling more and more. Tip number 5 is to let children take control of their own learning. Now, obviously as a teacher, you're still going to need to give some instructional videos, but setting open tasks are really beneficial for the children. For example, inquiry-based approaches are really good. You might set children out on a set quest so that they can start to investigate their own learning. At the same time, there is something that's called sort of low floor, high ceiling activities. It's essentially setting activities where the children have quite basic things to do that can then extend onwards. Now that also relates to that inquiry based approach. At the same time, if you're a little bit confused on that, then you can set activities that are something that the children can keep quite open, but then once those children who want to extend themselves are finished, then they have that extension activity. But give those children the opportunity to take ownership over those levels, rather than saying you need to do the spicy challenge or the hot challenge. Just give those children that opportunity, because assessment is quite difficult during the lessons that we're having online at the moment. So just make sure that you're taking the opportunity to give those children the responsibility for their own learning, and then you can give the feedback based on whatever they submit to then extend them even further. Tip number 5.5, because it's quite closely related to the last tip, is that accountability is key. Now make sure that the children are still submitting a similar quality work to the work that they would produce in the classroom. Now it would be quite easy, because children are working from home, for them to say, right, that will do. However, make sure that you take the chance to celebrate the work that the children are doing outside of the classroom, and saying, look, this is a fantastic piece, this is maybe even better than what you've shown me in the classroom before, amazing. Use those things such as online stickers, you know, the Bitmoji things that I've talked about before in a previous video. Use those things to celebrate the work. That way it's going to motivate the children to be a bit more accountable for their own learning. At the same time, it's also important to go back to that flexibility point, where we need to be a bit understanding that situations might be different for different homes. So we need to really be considerate of the fact that some children might find it difficult to complete certain pieces of work, and it's important to have those discussions with parents to say, right, are we struggling? Do we need some further support, or do we need to let go of the reins of certain subjects so that the children can complete other work in the highest way possible? So hopefully someone out there has found one of the tips within this video useful. If you have, and you found this video interesting, feel free to like it. That's always really appreciated. I've also made a range of other videos about online distance learning, so you can feel free to check out the playlist. I'll link that down in the bottom, but at the same time up there too. If you are new to the channel, then a huge welcome. Make sure you subscribe down in the corner and hit the notification bell to be alerted when I post my videos. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But for now, I'm out.